Hello, Mariano. Yeah, Sanyu, Simon, Palden. Yes, Judy, welcome, and Srinimala. Apologies for the late start. I did, as usual, try to log on 5 or 10 minutes in advance. There had been some confusion over the date of the restart. Yeah, welcome, Christian. Just saying there was a confusion over the date of the restart. I've been trying to log in for the last 15 minutes. No mea culpa. Yes. Right, here we go then. So according to my notes, oops, hang on. We were due to complete the Dhammapada. So let me just gallery. Here we are. Due to complete Dhammapada, chapter 9, verse 9. Can anyone please remind me exactly what point we had reached?
The message sent out that you sent out was will complete 9.9.
That's right.
It is a short one. So.
That indeed, that will to complete verse 9 today, you mean? Yeah.
Yeah,
that indeed I have. I always print out my message, so I've got it in front of me. Helps the elderly brain. But what was the exact point that we'd reached? I forget how far we got with it.
I thought we'd been all through it and we're just going to do any questions, is my recollection, but it could be flaky.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So.
Okay, so we have two saying that we were just dealing with any final questions. In the absence of any contraindication, that's what we'll go for. Okay. So that brings us to, are there any questions? You may not have any, I might. Who did I see you shaking your head then, Christine, for no questions? Okay, that means I did. Now, you need to unmute, Christine, because I'm going to ask you a question.
No, I'm just glad to have got through because I didn't get a message on an email.
Oh,
yes, I'm glad you say that because I didn't get a reminder either.
I don't think any of us did. It came through about 10 seconds ago.
Oh, did it?
Okay. I sent one a few minutes ago saying I was trying to log on, but I did send one on the 3rd of April about this next class beginning today.
Well, we normally get one from the Buddhist Society. The morning say with the link in it.
Zoom.
Ah, right. But you got my email to, well, evidently you did, because Mariano has just been accurately quoting from it.
But the Buddhist, I normally get two, one first thing and just before.
Right. Yeah. I think that was because there may have been a little failure, which I am going to say rather like Colonel Nicholson in the bridge over the River Kwai. It was not my fault. About the starting date, I think I did tell everyone that we were going to restart today, Wednesday, the 30th of April.
Yeah.
That message may have, as it were, been like the seed that fell upon stony ground. Anyway, now that you're unmuted, Christine, can you just please explain the very first word, "panimi"? The very first word in Dhammapada Actually, let me share screen. Let me share screen with you. Screen share. And I'm just calling up now. At that chapter 9. Okay, do you all have the Dhammapada up in front of you on the shared screen? Good.
Yeah. Nine.
This first word, panimhi, would you like to explain it to us, Christine?
Ah, oh, um, um, in the hand, panimhi.
Yes, it is. Yeah, it is exactly in the hand. And
Oh,
if you say to any okay, you've got that right. So panimi. If you ask any modern northern Indian, what is the word pani? What does the word pani mean? They will immediately think you're saying pani. So let me just. Do you know that word Shri Animala, don't you?
I'm not sure.
Shri Animala, you know the word.
Pani is in our language. Pani is maybe water like that.
Water. It is. Do you use the same word in Sinhala?
No.
Okay.
Only water. Yeah, water. Yeah.
Oh, hand. Hand.
Pani.
Let me just show this to you. So, hang on. Can you see my iPad now?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So, look. Pani with the subdotted N and ending in a short E. Pani means a hand. A hand. Now, there is another word, the modern Hindi and Punjabi, and I think various other languages of northern India. The word pani, meaning water. Now, the interesting thing is this root is from the, sorry, this word is from the root pa, meaning to drink.
Papaya.
It's a slightly irregular, reduplicated. It's sorry, pen's gone funny again. Sorry, but oops. There we are. It's a slightly irregular verb. It makes its present tense in pibati. Pibati, which the speakers of languages like Latin and Italian and Spanish will recognize, you see, and which comes into English as bibulus, liking to drink, and or beverage, bevere, which in French, of course, boire, in Spanish, beber, meaning to drink. So this is one of those words that can form its future passive participle with a nia. So pania.
Needing to be.
Sorry?
Needing to be drunk.
Ah. That is frequently the meaning, as in, for example, karania matta kusalena, needing to be done, agendum in Latin, who has the agenda in modern English, needed. But it also has the meaning of capable of being drunk or fit for being drunk. So, although in modern Hindi, Punjabi, and other languages of northern India, pani is a general word for water, back in Sanskrit and Pali, it specifically means drinkable water, which we also say as potable water, from that same root, pa, potable. So here we just see the important difference between paniya and full in Sanskrit Pali. That's the important difference now between vowel lengths and subdotted ends. They do make an entirely different words. So, panimhiche, if in the hand, vanonassa, there be no wound. It's a vrana in Sanskrit, vrana in Pali. Hareya panina visam. One might take hareya, that's the optative form. One might take visam, poison, panina. Christine, you've made a good start with the locative. What is panina?
Panina sounds very nominative to me, actually.
Very whatty?
Panina with an R at the end. Panina.
That is the
Plural. No.
It's the instrumental panina. As in bhikkhu, bhikkhuna, muni, munina.
Panimhi.
So panimhi is the locative, whereas panina is the instrumental. One might take poison with the hand or by the hand. It's saying if the skin isn't cut, if there's no wound on your hand, you can safely take poison by the hand, in your hand. Welcome, Billy. Welcome. Hello. That's what's being said here. Mariano, please.
It is a very, very long shot, an association, but I was wondering, pani and pancha. Pancha is 5 fingers, hence the hand. What do you think?
I think that, firstly, these long shots are always worth trying because they will often turn up things that are unexpected and that's something I'm going to check on. I'm making a note to check and come back on. My first reaction is it's not.
Thank you.
But it's something that I will check. So Fenny.
I have a question. This word pani with a dot under, meaning hand, has it got anything to do with our great hero of grammar, Parnini?
Well, it does actually look, because Parnini, it does actually look like Mr. Handy.
Yes.
So it actually looks, and it's spelt in the same way. It's spelt with the Parnini is the first N is subdotted. That's not something I've actually delved into, but this reminds me to double check. But it is that same word pani with a ni at the end.
It would be interesting. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, and of course the word hand. I mean, it can exist as a name. I will check that. I have a note to check and get back to you next time. Yeah. Note in the first line here, we've got nasa, which is by Santi nasa. Very frequently in Pali, more often than not, where you get 2 short vowels coalescing, it would make a long vowel, but that vowel itself would be shortened if followed by a double consonant. So, for example, nasa, well, for example, nasti in Sanskrit becomes nasti with a long r. But nati in Pali tends to become nati because Pali does not like a long vowel followed by a double consonant. Occasionally you find it, especially in poetry, and that's what we have here, nasta. I would, if I'd seen nasta, that would have been. I would more have expected to see nasa, but you will find this this long vowel sometimes retained, as indeed you do in the very first syllable of the second line. It's na abbanam visam anveti. I would expect to see nabbanam, but it's come nabbanam. So nabbanam visam anveti is visam, Newtonam, the poison, na anveti abbanam. Literally does not follow, and here means to infect or to affect the person who has not got a wound. The avrana in Sanskrit, abbana in Pali. Note here the Sanskrit word vrana, meaning wound, and in Pali, as you'd expect, all that happens is that the r drops out, giving us vana. Now, if we negate it with the a, avrana, so avrana, it is in Sanskrit, but here now we've got the consonant cluster preceded by a vowel, so that becomes abbana. So vana, negated form, abbana, because the effect of the vra. And we more often see this phenomenon the other way around, where it's a r, v. For example, Sanskrit, sarva, becomes in Pali, sabba. It's got a bit of a funny etymology that in sometimes the s from Vedic becomes a h in Greek. And the a can become an o. And the r can become a l. And the v can get missed off. So sarva and the Greek holo, as in holograph, holistic, hologram, are in fact originally from the same word. In Latin and through to Italian and even through to English now, it has followed a much more orderly course. All that's happened is that the sarva has become salvus in Latin. So the idea is sarva, meaning all, whole, entire. The word in Latin means whole in the sense of safe, undamaged, salvation, salvage, salvus. So there we are. Salve Regina, you see, we've got it. It's become even more mangled as it's come into English. And it's become terribly mangled. Sarva sabba holo, in English it's just finished up as all. It's etymologically the same word, but phonetically really mangled up.
And not whole, as in.
Actually, that could be so, because let me just double check that. You could be right about that. I'll check that and come back to you next time.
Thank you.
Because we know the whole, although it's written with a W, it seems to be etymologically connected with healing and health.
Oh.
Yeah, and you heal somebody, HEAL, but you make them whole, WHOLE, but with the same meaning. I'll check that a little bit further. Annueti. Who's going to be the first to raise the hand, really to explain and delve into this annueti? Simon, please.
I think it's eti, as in he goes, and anu, which is to follow. So literally it will mean to kind of go after, to follow along with. in this context, it means just kind of to enter in or to infect or poison the body.
Yeah, okay, that is correct. That's our wonderful prefix anu. Incidentally, on this point of anu, I found a lovely example of it. Just a couple of weeks ago, I can forget which sutta it was in now. It was the sutta where Buddha is, the Anupada Sutta, where the Buddha is praising the practice done by Sariputta. And so just trying to turn my, oops, come on. Uh-oh. Won't let me, maybe it'll let me push it upwards. There we are. We have the Pavattati. We have the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta, the sutta on the turning of the wheel of the law. It's from the Sanskrit root vart and alternatively vrit, meaning to turn. Of course, in Latin, vertere, which has come into, in the modern English, revert, convert. We don't have the word provert, but we can invent it. To provert something means to turn it forward. If to revert, to turn back, to provert, to turn forward. So this is the proverting of the Dhammacakka, the proverting of the wheel of the law. Sanskrit pravartana, Pali pavattana. Now, pavattati is just the verb form, he rolls on. Pavattana is the verbal noun. In this sutta, the Buddha was talking about Sariputta, Dhammacakkam anupavattati. Anupavattati, meaning the Buddha has set the wheel in motion, but Sariputta is, as it were, continuing the rolling of that wheel. And that's a lovely meaning of this word, the anu here, as it continuing, following on. And by the way, when I go into these little digressions on the meaning of verbal prefixes, it would be not wrong to regard this as the, almost the highlight of the lesson. The real understanding of the meaning of these prefixes is the curry on the rice. It's the spice on the food. It brings it to life. It gives it taste and feeling. So in the Karaniya Metta Sutta, Mata yatha niyam putameka putam ayusa anurakke. Now, this is the mother protecting her child. It's not just rakkati, or in the optative rakke, it's anurakke. What does the anu mean here? It's like a continuing, not just a single act, saving the child from imminent danger. It's like an ongoing, continuing act. And when we recollect the qualities of the Buddha, let me just turn up, it's our root smriti, to remember. Sanskrit smarati and Pali sarati. And verbal noun Sanskrit smriti and Pali, of course, sati. So smarati in Sanskrit, sarati in Pali to remember. But when you recollect the qualities of the Buddha, it's not just sarati, but anusarati. In other words, that's the kind of orderly remembering of them one by one. Oh, I remember that bit, I remember that bit. It's like an orderly calling to mind. So this anu also has the idea of something continuing, methodical, done in an orderly way. Finally, at the end, nati papam akubbato. There is no papa, there is no evil. To the to the one who does not do. In other words, no evil happens to the one who does not do. That is, who does not do evil. Please, Mariano.
There might even be a hint of volitional doing without evil or not evil, just the verb in itself. So, the production of karma follows from volitional activity, that kind of thing.
Develop this notion, Mariano?
Karma arises as a result of volitional activity, intentional volitional activity, either good or bad karma. That is the underlying doctrine. So there might be a hint of that in there, because it is left hanging there rather than having a direct object.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with what you say. I mean, clearly, it's what is meant here must be the volitional action. Is somebody who does papa? I think almost by definition, because papa is kind of has a moral sense. Therefore, there's got to be the volitional element. I think the meaning here, no papa, nothing evil happens to him who does not, intentionally do evil. I think is what is meant here. So does that deal with your point, Mariano?
Yeah, it is just a shade of meaning, but
yeah, yeah, I do tend to agree with you on it. So Simon, come in.
Yeah, I mean, just a little note I made when I read this. I mean, I thought Mariano was referring to the fact that it could either be no evil to or of the one, the person who does evil, or just the verb, like we would say in the doing. So there is no evil in not doing.
My first reaction is to resist that, because here we've got the genitive/dative form of the present participle here. So the way it's put, akubato, is to or of one who does not do.
I've got I've got akubanta, which is not doing, not making. So could you get, the declension of that would have also akubato for the dative and genitive, wouldn't it?
Yes, but when you said not doing, remember that in English that's ambiguous, because it would be the verbal noun doing, or the doer, the person who does. In Pali, this is distinctly and unambiguously an active participle, a person who does.
Right. Okay.
So does that deal with your query? Had you been treating it as a verbal noun?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I mean, I don't know why it would have that when we can say there is no evil in the not doing. But
no evil in not doing.
The not doing, yeah. So the abstract quality of not
of just refraining from any action. Okay, now I take your point, Sam. Now here, the Pali will not bear that meaning, because the akubato, as I said, is unambiguously a present active participle and refers to a person who does not do, and it can't here be treated as a verbal noun. I mean, there's no evil in not doing. We would have said napapam akarane, or something like that in the non-doing.
So we would use the participle.
I'm sorry, say again?
We would use the present participle or something to get that effect.
No, you'd use the verbal noun.
Okay.
Which would be either Kiriya or Karana. In fact, there's a verse in the Dhammapada that which begins, it's a very well-known verse, Sabbapapasta Karanam, the non-doing of all papa.
Yeah.
Do you remember that one?
Yeah.
What's it? Punyasa upasampada sachitta pariyodapanam etam buddhana sasanamo. Words substantially to that effect. But anyway, the first line is sabbapapasa akaranam. So there is no evil in non-doing. You'd expect to see something like in the nati papam akarane, in non-acting. So hopefully the point is clear that this is unambiguously a present active participle. There is no evil for the non-doer of, then in brackets, of evil. Right. Any further questions? We can possibly move on then to the Mangala Sutta. Do I detect tunhi bhavena adhivasa, consent by silence? Actually, you couldn't do that. Whenever the Buddha is invited for a meal, so is tunhi bhavena adhivaso, is consent by silence. You'd be regarded as slightly odd if you did that in modern time. Would you like to come to a meal for me? And you remain totally silent. But anyway, autre pays, autre mœurs, people did things differently then. Okay, we can move on to the Mangala Sutta then. We find. Well, this is actually grammatically very, very simple. I'll probably get through this quite rapidly. Mata pitu upathanam puttadarasa sangaho anakula chakammanta etam mangalamuttamang. So upathana, Sanskrit would be upasthana, literally standing up to. Of course, it has a different meaning. In Sanskrit and Pali, the upasthana, up, means standing close to. And therefore, the upathana in Pali means standing close to in the sense of attending to their needs, as it were, the attending upon them, standing close to them, waiting to see what they need, just being with them. So, mata pitu upathanam. These here, the mata pitu, we know the full form of mata is mata, and the full form of pitu is pita, meaning father. We could also have seen matu pitu upathanam in the combining form. This pitu is just the combining form of father. In Sanskrit, it would be pitri with the subdotted. Let me give you the. Oops. The stem form, you could say, is pitar, which is virtually the same throughout, well, the same throughout most of the Indo-European languages. the combining form in Sanskrit is a pitrita. So your paternal home is the pitrigraha. Paternal residence, the pitrivasa. But in Pali, that just becomes pitu, so that accounts for the pitu in pitu upatanam. So attending upon mother and father. Uttadarasa sangaho. Sangaha, which is sangraha in Sanskrit, means collecting. I saw Sri Nimala miming it with her hand. Sangraha, gathering in. And it just means, in modern Hindi, for example, sangrah means a collection of something. I remember one Hindi speaker announcing to me that he was a stamp collector, which is meant डाक ticket ka sangrah karta hu. You see, I make the sangrah of डाक ticket, post tickets, you see. They word for stamps. So the sangraha means gathering, and I was initially puzzled, how can, so sangaha here has the meaning of support. And the original meaning was you do the gathering. In other words, you gather what is needed. And if you transpose this back into the hunter-gatherer communities, you do the gathering for your family. You make sure you gather in the supplies, the food and whatever else is needed. So it retains the original word meaning gathering in, but here means support generally, providing for their needs. So puttadarasa.
Is there another possibility, James? Because what it brought to mind for me was we've got an awful lot of geese here at the marina. And when they've got babies and they're sort of feeling a bit threatened, they kind of gather them all together and stand around them. It's almost like guarding them.
Oh yeah, like the mother hen gathering in all the chickens under her wings and that.
Yeah, that's the image that came to mind when I sort of read what it originally meant and what it had become to me.
When I wrote these notes, that the idea of being the gatherer for the family hadn't come into my mind at that stage. That's why it's not in the notes. But the sangaha. Yes, you gather people in. If there's a danger, you can gather them round you to make sure that they're protected.
I wasn't sure whether it specifically meant supporting the material or whether it was just kind of more protecting, looking after in a more general sense.
Yeah, I think it could be Paladin, yes. I like that extension of meanings. Maybe it's very likely one of those things that both meanings could have been held at the same time. So yes, we will incorporate Paladin's extended meaning here. It can mean just gathering in the needed supplies to support you, or in times of danger, gathering them in to make sure that they're gathered around you in a safe protected space. Remember, this dara is one of those words. It's masculine in form, even though, of course, feminine in meaning. And the only other Indo-European cognate I can find is the Greek word mentioned in the notes here, the Greek word doulos, or doulos in modern Greek, doulos in classical Greek, meaning a slave. So it's just weird how these words have changed meaning as they pass through the centuries and through different cultures. Incidentally, in Sanskrit, it's often the same word is often found as a masculine plural, daraha, even though it might refer to a single lady. So, a married lady might refer to one lady, well, one's wife. Why then appears in the masculine plural. As far as I know, it's the only word in Sanskrit that behaves like that. You have okay, Mariano.
Another long shot. Dowry, in which case it is plural in meaning. Could it stand for for when you got a wedding or whatever, the wife comes with the dowry, and therefore by association, maybe? Is it possible?
I'm going to check it, but my first reaction is the dowry is probably cognate, well, certainly within English, from the word to endow, and a word like the Old English, a dower, meaning a gift.
Dote in Italian would be the equivalent.
Sorry?
Dote, dowry.
Il dote, because in French it's le dot, the dot is it's very likely the same. It's more likely to be from the root da, dare here, I think. But I'll double check that point. I'll just make a note to check that. These long shots are fun, aren't they? So, Putta Darasa against just a Dvandva compound, meaning wife, and of course Putta, singular in form, but obviously could be singular or plural in meaning because it's in compound. The Sangaha, either this supporting, protecting of one's wife and children. Anakula chakammanta etam mangalamuttamam. This Anakula is, I've had a little bit of, I haven't quite established the meaning of this word in this context. I'm just trying to see who's, I've got a sound like a farmyard in the back, a lot of kind of rather noisy cows. What's going on there, Mariano? And you're muted now.
James, hello.
Usha, hello.
I just wondered about going back to Darasa. Did you say it meant slave?
In Greek, the etymological equivalent in Greek, doulos,
okay. But not
means slave.
Pali.
In Sanskrit and Pali, it refers to a wife.
Oh.
And in fact, in modern Greek, from the same word, doulevo, for example, means just to work. So it means a worker. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
So, Simon.
Just about the anakula. I was kind of fascinated when I read this because it's about families, and there's this sense of, you can also talk about a family as a kula, and I checked and it's the same root. So an akula means to be kind of bound up or tied in with. Things are too close.
Yes, yeah.
Your kula or family are those who are close to you, presumably. So I'm wondering if there's like a little bit of the idea that akula, like your family are they're coming at you. You know, you've got wife and children, pressing in on you on your business, and so to be anakula means that you're kind of slightly separated from them. You're not kind of oppressed by the family, because I think it is the same root, isn't it?
I think it is probably that same route. The idea of a crowded place. Let me just turn up. So actually, just looking, here's Mooney Williams, the pure root itself, to accumulate or to collect, and then be of kin, behave as a kinsman. So it would be very rare as a verb, but of course very common as a noun. Yeah, so So from kula, this is the more common word, of course, the noun form. Ah, here we are, look. Originally heard a troop of an assemblage or a multitude or a number. So maybe the original meaning wasn't quite family, it was just a grouping of people. And in the later literature, by far the most common meaning is one's family. But the original meaning was just gathering or an assemblage. And if it's akula, this dynamic sense of with everything kind of rushing in on you, being surrounded by people. Whether in this particular case it specifically refers to your family being around you. I remember what it was like trying to get on with work at home when I had 3 children between the ages of 5 and 2, but it's a long time ago now. But I doubt whether it specifically refers to the family here, but it certainly is the idea of one's, people crowding too close around one, and then the general idea of being thronged. And in the use in the adjective akula, the idea is being thronged, crowded, pressed in.
Can I jump in quickly before they start again? Kula Mitra, how would you translate it then?
Kula Mitra would be a friend of the family, I think. Or, so you're muted again, Mariano?
Yeah. The Western Buddhist order, they use that name, for example. I was wondering whether they refer to the crowds, the clan, the family. What would be a proper translation of that one?
Well, I've just
the people.
Kula Mitra, I've just turned up on the face of it here. I mean, I've just turned up Moni Williams here, a friend of the family.
Thank you.
And there's where we often see this in a certain passage in the Digha Nikaya, where the clansman, the family man, goes forth, the Kula Putta, the son of the Kula. I think the implication is that he's expected to carry on the family line, the family business, but the Kula Putta, Habajati, he goes forth. That's the son of the Kula. And then you get with the meaning of family in the Karanametta Sutta, you say kulesu ananugidho, not hankering after families. You might get a monk who gets a bit too close to the families, being looked after, constantly going back to that house, maybe more than he should. So have we dealt with those points? Okay. So
James, this really is a rabbit hole, but there's a really interesting book if anybody's interested about the difference between the rhetoric of being the solitary wandering monk and the actuality of how they intertwined with family relationships and sort of had to find ways to accommodate them in order for the monks to be supported and what the monks were really like. If I can find the title, I'll send it to you to share with people, because it's actually, for an academic book, it's quite a good read and it's quite funny in places.
Okay, well, if you could do that, Peldon, I'd be very grateful indeed.
And it's very specifically around this, some of it around this point of people having to some extent, having to go back to their families because that was the only way they could support themselves as monks. And it sort of got accommodated, but it was a bit uncomfortable. It's just I just thought it was quite interesting.
You mean went back to their own families?
To their own families, and sometimes husbands and wives kind of going. What's it called when you? Oh, what's it called when you go off and become a monk?
Pabaja.
Yeah, husbands and wives and even whole families would do that together, and there was particular rules about going back to the families when they needed to get food for alms, and it's just quite an interesting read.
I would be very interested to see that.
Until I read it, this thing about being the phrase you were just saying in the Metta Sutta about
And kulesu ananugidhu.
Yeah, I kind of wondered what all that was about, and then when I read this, it was like, okay, I kind of see why you need that in there.
Okay, right. So here we're looking at it in Sanskrit. We'll check it in Pali dictionary. The akula originally, it's come to mean confounded or confused from this idea of everything coming at you at once, crowding round you. Give me a space. That's the akula. A place crowded with people. So here, I think, back to Simon's point, not so much exactly family. Like family is a derivative meaning from the root kul, but here it's just a general overcrowding you. This prefix a, the verbal prefix a, often has a meaning, well, the primary meaning of just going towards something, or it can reverse the motion of verbs of actual or implied motion, like da, give, ada, to take, gum, to go, aga, to come. But it very often has kind of like an aggressive meaning. Look at the word aggressive. The gressus in Latin means a step. Gressio, taking a step. Regressio, stepping back. But adgressio, which becomes aggressio, the D becomes which and then into English becomes aggression. It's that same prefix a, which comes into Latin as ad. But it has this kind of idea of, even in English, at, don't shout at me. So it sometimes has this idea of either hostility, something unpleasant happening. From the root krush, to shout, krushati in Sanskrit, kusati in Pali. And this is actually a very good example of so root krush, to call or to shout. Krushati, Pali, kusati. At an early stage in the Dhammapada, so you shouldn't think, he wounded me, he cheated me, he screamed at me. That is akrusi. That's akroshati, to shout at somebody. If you prakroshati, Pali pakusati, that's fine, just calling out, shouting out to somebody, oi, hello, shouting out to them, which is different from shouting at them. So pakusati, to shout out, to call out to somebody. Akusati, you're screaming at them. And this kusati, krosh, you find in the Greek of the New Testament, Christ on the cross, his last words, he cried out, ekrage, from krago in Greek, to cry out. And it finishes up in English, oddly enough, as croak. It's the same word. Yeah, okay, I was just explaining there about this meaning of the verbal prefix a, which is, very often has this hostile meaning of something happened to you. So patati, to fall, the apati is something that either befalls you or you fall into. So it means an offense. Apati. So anakula chakamanta. So again, in fact, I'm still not totally certain how to interpret the anakula here. Maybe it's the same idea as that your business should not be so much that it crowds you out and takes up the whole of your life, leaves you, for example, not free to do your practice, for example. That's my preferred interpretation at the moment, but that is by no means fixed. Bhikkhu Bodhi translates it as an honest occupation. But I'm extreme, as I've said this kind of thing before, look, I'm very, very shy indeed about contradicting a scholar of my hero, Bhikkhu Bodhi, is my Pali translator hero. But all I can say is I would like to hear his justification. I'm interested to hear his justification for using that an honest occupation. I don't think elsewhere I've seen anakula used in the sense of honest or dishonest. As I said query there in my note, but query.
Hello, James.
Yes, please, Usha.
By implication, if it says not, anakula, not disturbing the family, or family not disturbing you, I wonder if it can mean peaceful in the sense that working in such a way that it brings peace within the family rather than disturbance. Because I wrote this years ago, I've written peaceful, and that sort of maybe honest, you said about Bhikkhu Bodhi, but peaceful in the sense, as I said, not intricate and aggressive in a negative way towards our clan, So in that sense, the positive side would come, that it would create peace rather than the negative. You said can mean in some negative way, going towards.
It's certainly can hear it clearly. It does have that negative. That's a very interesting point you've made there, Usha. I think the answer is yes. It could also be interpreted then. In the dictionary meaning is you are being crowded in, as it were. But here, I think, but not causing that same, let your livelihood be such that it doesn't have that, okay, bye, Mariano, sorry to see you go. Yeah. So it could, I agree, also be interpreted to have the meaning of not having that effect on other people, on society in general.
It's Mangala, so it's a blessing. So
indeed,
slightly negative doesn't seem to work for me. Whereas if it's possible to transform it in the effect of it, then it seems to make more. It makes me feel more peaceful as well.
That's a very good point. I'm happy to kind of welcome that interpretation into the possibilities that we have here. So thank you for that, Usha. I certainly agree with you that that could be a certain, as it were, an additional subtext of it.
Yes, thank you.
So anakula chakammanta etam mangalamuttamang. This word kammanta, I don't know it here. Normally the word for work is just kamma, and this is kamma anta. So let's do it. So in Sanskrit, karma. It's anta, so it becomes in Sanskrit karmanta, and in Pali kammanta. The original meaning of that was work, literally work ends. An end in this sense, not meaning the termination of something, but the objective that you're aiming at, as in to what end are you doing such and such. So it meant originally kind of something like work objectives, work aims, the things you are seeking to achieve. But then by extension, it then just came to mean one's livelihood, and that we have in the Noble Eightfold Path. We have some samakamanta, not just samakamma, but samakamanta, meaning in that broader sense, work ends. So we just see if we have a note on it here. Karmanta. They come at the end or the accomplishment of a work, the end or conclusion, and then by extension, then work, business, action, administration. So I would say here the original meaning was specifically the end or the accomplishment or the objective of your act, and then by extension, one's business generally. Oops. Okay. So we have a few minutes for some recitations. Can we start off with you, Keith?
Right. Mata pitu upatanum darasa sangaho anakulacha kamanta etang mangala mutamang.
Now, Keith, there were a couple of departures there from your normally very, very precise attention. Your admirably precise attention to longs and shorts. You just do that first line again with special attention, as indeed you do know how, and you've proved it to me, to longs and shorts, lights and heavies.
Okay, well, as I thought, it should be Mata pitu upatanum Buddha darasa sangaho.
Can you Mata pitu upatanam Buddha darasa sangaho? You were lengthening final R's a bit. Buddha darasa, using darasa sangaho, which, for example, a native Sinhala speaker would never do. In fact, in Sinhala, this final is really as short as it can be. So can I just, Keith, now I'll ask Shri Nimala to recite this verse.
Yes.
And all of you pay very careful attention to Shri Nimala's almost exaggeratedly short, well, it's natural in Sinhala, of course, but this really short final like an sound.
Mata pitu pattanam buddhada rasa sangaho anakula chakammanta etam mangalamuttamam.
Now, did you notice there, this final there was very, very short indeed. Anakulacha, acha. There's a big difference.
Anakula chakammanta.
There, you see, yeah, okay. You do. I remember earlier, Keith, you were explaining to me, and I really enjoyed it, almost like the Morse code thing, where the entire point of the Morse code is the sharp and evident difference between longs and shorts. And I remember you were then developing something like almost a Morse code way of reciting.
Yes, I'm marking it up exactly like that, but not totally successfully.
Okay, but I remember when you started out, when we discussed this a while ago, you were getting it very, very accurate then.
Well, perhaps a bad day today.
Okay, not to worry then. Fenny, would you like to come in for your turn?
Have a go. Mata pitu upattanam Buddha darasa sangaho anakula chakamanta eta mangalam uttamam.
Okay, very nice. Can you just say this word again? I've heard kamanta.
Oh yeah, I didn't double it, did I?
You didn't.
Kamanta.
Yeah, once your ear becomes attuned to the double consonants, if somebody fails to double it, you just, there's an immediate knowledge that it's Kamanta.
I stumbled a bit over the doubling in the upatanam, which I find quite difficult to enunciate. The t and the t, upatanam.
I thought that came out fairly well, actually. I was particularly listening on that. Upatanam. This was this retroflex. Wouldn't be retroflex in Sanskrit, it's upasthanam. But upatanam. In Srinamala told me in Sinhala, you do make the distinction between ta and ta, I think. Is it as sharp as the distinction in, say, Tamil and Hindi?
And da, yes.
Yeah, okay. So can you just say again, upatanam, just that one word?
Upatanam.
Upatanam. And Dilli, you're a native Sinhala speaker, I think, is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So would you like to recite this verse again? Sorry, for the first time for us.
It's me. Okay. Mata pitu pattanam puttadarassa sangaho anakula cha kammanta etam mangalamuttamam.
Wonderful. By the way, everybody in Sri Nimala and Dilli are good models to follow. And that came out as the upatanam from you, but maybe I pronounce it in a more of a Northern Indian Hindi way. In Thai, for example, when the Thais are reciting it, they tend not to make a distinction. They make the distinction in writing because the original Devanagari letters and sound ta, 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 ta are actually, of course, different letters in Devanagari, but the Thais tend not to make that distinction very clearly in their speech. And that brings me to you, Sanyu. In Burmese, do you make a distinction between the and ta and ta and ta?
Da and ta. Yes. Da and ta. We have.
Okay, right. So would you like now to give us a recitation of this verse then, Sanyu?
Yes. Mata pitu upatanam Bodha darasa sangaho anakulacha kamanta etam mingla muktamam.
Okay, right. Now, in Burmese, would you do a distinct doubling of kamanta?
Kamanta, yes.
Okay, so there was a slight doubling there. Maybe in Burmese you don't hold it quite as long as the Indians would, but I did hear there's different, not kamanta, but kamanta. So that was okay. So were you pronouncing that in the Burmese way?
Kamanta. We don't.
Okay.
Yes, we don't pronounce M sound. So kamanta.
Okay, right. So how would it be normal? How would it be normal for you to say that in Burmese? So say that one word again in the way that would be normal for you in Burmese.
Kamanta, yes.
Okay, right. So I think a very slight doubling,
yes,
but not the heavy doubling that you would hear from, say.
In fact, like French, we don't pronounce like not the M sound. So that's why we don't hear the doubling.
Okay, right. Good.
And then the second one we pronounce M. Kamanta.
Okay, got it. Yeah, thank you there. Thank you, Sanyu. So that leaves now Simon and Peldon. Simon, can you give us a recite of it?
Mata pitu upattanam puttadarassa sangaho anakula chakamanta etang mangalamuttamam.
Goodness me, thank you, Simon, with meticulous attention to all of the doublings and the retroflexings and the aspirations. Upattanam. Okay, thank you, Simon. And finally, before we wind up, we have time for Palden.
Got a bit of pressure going last. Mata pitu upattanam puttadarassa sangaho anakula chakamanta etam mangalamuttamam.
Okay, very good, very nice. So before we wind up the session, any queries? Okay then, so we'll just end my stop share. And okay, lovely. And I will see you again in a week's time. Some of you in a few minutes' time.
James.
Okay, thank you very much then. Thank you. Thanks. Bye. Bye.
Thank you, James.
Thank you. Bye.